Well, good morning and welcome to Buddha's in Your Landfill, or your Zen moment. And we'll pick up where we left off yesterday, just to keep the thread going of our inquiry. This really is, for me, and I hope for you, a daily inquiry into different ways of looking at why we suffer. This is all what the Buddha Dharma is about, is the inquiry into and asking the question of why we are dissatisfied, why there's conflict, why there's constant turmoil and sense of incomplete, sense of lacking, a rub, something, a wobble in life, So we're just looking at that each day, following our inspiration. At least that's what I'm doing. I this morning I just kind of say I don't know what to talk about, and then a little seed idea comes up, and I follow it. And usually when I put it on the board and use a marker, the idea just kind of opens up because I get in touch with my body. So you see, there's a little, what I'm discovering here and what I'm trying to share is that we've lost contact with the body, our body, in the body of the earth. So let's look at that from that angle, because yesterday we were talking about how we get caught up in what a double bind is, when you feel like no matter what you do, you lose. No matter what you do, it doesn't work out. That sense of helplessness, of not knowing what to do. Well, while that is a place that we try to avoid, but it's also a portal. In other words, it's also the rabbit hole in Alice in Wonderland. That if we're looking to get back to the ground of our being, there has to be a portal. There has to be a door. Even in Genesis, the idea of the garden being closed and we're in exile, wandering around looking for that closed door. And we can't find it because we're looking in the wrong place. So from the Buddha point of view, or Zen, I'll just say from Zen point of view, the garden it's always already here. And we're just not looking in the right place or with the right perception. So let's take a look then at today's map, right? So these are just little daily maps that I use to get me in touch with my body, because it really is like this, that when I start to write my little figures, the ideas come out of the magic marker. And I say, oh, well, that ties it all together. So this morning I started with, because I had nothing, I didn't know what I opened up my little ebook with haikus, Zen haikus, and the haiku was singing, planting rice, village songs more lovely than city poems. Singing, planting rice, village songs more lovely than famous city poems. And we can just imagine the village people, the country people planting rice and singing, and the famous city poems are lacking, even though they're famous and big poets and all that. There's something missing from the simple singing of the farmers planting rice. So right there, we have a idea of the village singing, planting rice is the garden, and the famous city people are in exile. And I live here in Blackstone, and Blackstone's in Nottoway County, which is southwest of Richmond, 50 miles. And always when I go to the city, particularly go on the interstate, New Jersey, or go to New York or the big cities in the east and all that, and you come back and you're in this, you spend your whole day in this river of traffic, and then you get off the exit and you go, and you're just in rolling, particularly in Virginia, with rolling green pastures and small and rolling hills and a nice balance of space and trees and cows grazing in the fields. And it's like the old iced tea commercial. It's just, that feeling of being home, being out of the famous city poems and back to where there's planting rice and singing. So there's a sense of being grounded when you get out of the country. We all leave the city to go out, to go to the country, to get the open space. The American mythology has always been about that, leaving the crowded East. Well, actually, the whole country was leaving crowded Europe and coming to America where there was open space. And then the space got filled up in the East, so people went west. And of course, now it's kind of filled up now, so we're looking for a different, so where is that ground when space gets all filled up with city and urban life, you see? So we're moving to a next frontier. We're moving to a next level of evolution in our search for the Garden of Eden that we have lost. So it's metaphorically, we're always looking in different ways in the same place to rediscover what is always and already here. You get that sense? I also put up here remember the series on Mad Men. I love that. I watched it twice. I'll probably watch it again since it's stored on Netflix waiting for me. But the whole idea of Mad Men was living in the Mad Men series was itself an extended metaphor. You think it was about the 60s. It was about Don Draper, a successful advertising man, and all the people that were in the cast. It was about that externally, but it was also about you and me. This takes us back to that cup, you see. Okay? Okay, so the outside here, Mad Men was about the outside of the cup. The outside of the cup was about the story, and then you can get different meanings of that, But the inside of the cup here is you. So Mad Men is about you and me. You see, there is only one cup. So when a series like Mad Men, or any movie, my favorite one is Avatar, these are extended metaphors. Okay? In other words, it's not just a single metaphor like you're a lion, you're a lion in the classroom. Well, that's a metaphor. You're not a real lion, you see. So the metaphor is that you're a lion and you're not a lion. So the metaphor holds that ambiguity together. So Mad Men is an extended metaphor, which means that it's over extended time. And so there is one basic metaphor and then a lot of different levels in it. But the basic metaphor is that you are Don Draper and you are not John Draper. You see. So each of us then, when we can see the metaphor as about me, and we see the metaphor from inside of the metaphor as Don Draper, we reconnect to our own ground. So these metaphors, the reason we love these series when they're really good, is that because they are a portal to reconnect us to our lost ground of being, which is what Don Draper was looking for. If you remember, he ended up sitting in a meditation group with a smile on his face after all these years of searching, for his ground. So it's kind of like I'm reconnecting this back up here with the country being a metaphor in our minds. You see, everything is just this. It's just, there's city, there's country, there's cows, there's people, there's subways. It's all just this. But we see these metaphorically too, without really realizing it. So why do we have the feeling of when we get out in the country, and why do we feel the energy and the tension of the city, and what there's different the feelings are real, but we also kind of like understand this metaphorically too, so that we think of the city, particularly New York, which is the epitome of the city. It's all towers of image. If you remember how, if you go to New York and you come up out of the subway, it's, oh, wow, and it's just huge images. The images are on the buildings. Everything is images. Everything is built of thought. Everything is built of image. Everything is structured by time. Everything is artificial in that sense, that we have lost the fields and the ground and the planting, and we've lost the singing and the planting of rice. And we are in a very famous and exciting and wealthy and potentially and adventurous and everything. It's all created by thought and image, and there is nothing you can really hold on to. There's no real permanence. There's no sense of permanence there. Everything can be torn down tonight, and you'll get up the next morning, and where'd it go? It's an empty lot. Everything is changing. The lights are changing, and red and green. People go and come, and it's an artificial world, and so we get this contrast even in our politics between the East and the city people and the government and the whole structure of thought and mind versus the of the country and the people who are grounded in the cows and the horses, you see, and the planting and the seasons of the planting and the rhythms of life versus the rhythms of mind. See, there's two rhythms here, the rhythms of life and the rhythms of mind. So we get this division here between mind and mind. Whoops, mind and body. Okay? So we're kind of like looking at this city people. Cities would be mind, country would be, the reference would be more towards the body. City life would be referenced more to image, which is a thought, a visual thought, an image, versus people who are referencing to their natural self, you see. So there's not natural and natural. There's these two contrasts play out in different ways. And all of it goes to a modern separation, whether you live in the country or live in the city, of mind from body. The body, well, your pets, your animals, your pet is body. And so we connect with the pet because the pet is a metaphor or a different reference for the mind. When we connect with our pet, we're connecting with our own body. See, there's only one body. We think the mind says, oh, well, there's all these different little bodies, dogs and cats and all that, you know, and I want that, you know, but there's only one, but the body itself shows no difference. But it's only the mind that separates everything into these things, you see, into nouns. The mind creates the world out of nouns. But the body itself is more like a verb. It's just being. And the whole of creation is just being. The cows, the planting, the rice, the village songs, it's just this being that is one in the mother, you see, in the goddess, this all interconnected being. And it is mind that superimposes categories and images and definitions and fragments it and breaks it all up into fragments, like you take a cup and throw it on the ground. Now you got all these different pieces of reality in the cups, you see. And we're all trying to put the cup back together and get back to the ground of being or body. So we're we're developing a sense here that the body is the Garden of Eden that is always here. It is the mind that slices up the body like you might slice, like the butcher slices up a steer into steaks and hamburgers and roast and all that, you see. But before the butcher gets hold of it with his knife and his cuts, there is just the whole cow, the whole steer. So the body represents wholeness before it's divided. So the body is the garden before Adam divided it up and named it into all these different things. You see how we're kind of like playing and looking at this? The sense of body is in us. So there's a sense in us of our own body, our being, before the mind came and divided it up into good and bad and this and that and all these images, you see. So when you define something, with the mind defines something, it creates an image, a definition of it, has qualities. We know we need this because you need to be able to survive and catch a bus and make stuff and avoid somebody's going to hurt you and all that. But the point is that we begin to mistake these towers of mind and thought and image for reality. We think it's real. And as soon as we believe this is real, we begin to disbelieve or not listen to our own body wisdom. You see. And so that creates an internal conflict between mind and body. And I'm constantly looking for my own body, but I'm looking for it in mind, which means future. So I'm looking for myself in the future when we all are right here in the body right now, which is the body is timeless, you see. We'll bring this back up, timeless, and the mind is in time, future, and the body is just here. So we get this conflict, you see, between the outside of the cup as being future or time, and inside here, there's the sense of timeless. The timeless of my own body is not the body that's in time, it's the body that doesn't know time. It's the sense that of a permanence to life that the mind cannot understand or access. We all feel this, that there is a sense in us that is timeless, but thinking can't find it. So, because thinking is time, you see. So there's this looking for this sense of timeless or permanence of the country. You see. But we're looking for it in the towers of the mind, which only sees images and definitions and regulating everything by past and future. So I hope we're just, exploring this and getting a sense of where where this sense of incompleteness comes from, and it doesn't come from out there, the external world. It comes from a separation within ourselves that we can repair, or that we can heal, or we can dissolve if we turn and begin looking in the right place instead of looking in time and in the future for the country and for that feeling of being at home, you see. So that feeling of being at home means that you don't have to search anymore. Home means I can rest and I'm natural and I'm not in conflict with images and I'm not looking for a better life in the future or something better. Home means, I'm home. I don't have to struggle here. So this feeling of home is actually the feeling of the lost garden of the Garden of Eden, which is the great mythologies of the world. But what I'm interested in is bringing all these mythologies and movies and metaphors back down to everyday mind and back down to just you and me here in our everyday world, our little everyday mundane very small world of taking the dog to the vets and all of these little simple things, that this is where we can look for the resolution of this great schism that we're in between our mind and our body, and the city people, the city life, and the village people. So we'll pick this. Well, I don't know what we'll talk about tonight, but drop in at Martini time, and we'll pick this up tomorrow morning and find your Zen moment then.